Hey viewers, just a quick thanks. Over 10% of you are already subscribed and it means the world. If you're new here and enjoy these stories, join the family by hitting that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000. I never thought my life would come crashing down on an ordinary Sunday morning. I woke up to the smell of coffee, thinking my wife, Amanda, was making breakfast like she always did. But when I walked into the kitchen, she was just sitting there at the table, staring at her phone with this cold, empty look in her eyes. I asked her what was wrong, and that's when she sighed, put her phone down, and said something that ripped my entire world apart in seconds. She didn't even flinch when she said it. She looked right at me and said, "I've been cheating on you. I needed a real man." For a moment I thought I misheard her. My chest tightened, and my mind went blank. I asked her what she meant, hoping this was some twisted joke. But she just smirked, like it was nothing, and repeated those words. I needed a real man. She didn't even try to comfort me or explain herself in a way that could soften the blow. Instead, she acted as if she was proud of what she did. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd collapse. I asked her who it was, thinking maybe it was someone from work or some stranger she met online. But when she told me, I felt like throwing up. It wasn't just some random person. It was someone I knew. Someone I trusted. And the worst part? When I reached out to my friends, desperate for support, they didn't side with me. Instead, they defended her, saying things like, "Maybe you should have been better for her." Or, "If she was happy, she wouldn't have done it." That moment broke me more than her betrayal. These were my friends. The same people who stood by me during my struggles, my career failures, and my father's death. I always thought they saw the good in me, but now, their words felt like knives slicing my chest open. Amanda didn't even seem to care about the pain she caused. She acted like she was finally free. I could see it in the way she walked around the house that morning, humming while packing her bags, as if leaving me was the best decision of her life. I stood there in the living room, staring at her as she zipped her suitcase shut. My hands trembled. My throat felt like it was closing up. I wanted to scream, cry, or beg her to stay. But all I could do was stand there in silence while my entire world burned down around me. Before she walked out, she turned to me one last time with that same cold smirk on her face and said, "Don't bother calling me. I'll block you everywhere." She left, and I was alone. Completely alone. My mind kept replaying those words over and over again. I needed a real man. And with that, she was gone. But what she didn't know was that her betrayal lit something inside me that I didn't even know existed. I wasn't going to stay broken forever. Because what happened next changed everything, and I promise, she never saw it coming. After Amanda left, the house felt like a graveyard. Everywhere I looked, I saw memories of her. The mug she always used for her morning coffee sat on the sink with lipstick stains still on the rim. Her hairbrush lay on the hallway table with strands of her hair tangled in it. Even the smell of her perfume lingered on the couch cushions. Each little thing felt like a punch to my chest, reminding me that she was gone, and she didn't care what she left behind. I spent that first night on the living room floor. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in our bed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face as she said those words. I needed a real man. Her voice echoed in my head like a curse I couldn't escape from. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I just lay there listening to the ticking clock on the wall, wondering how my life had turned into this nightmare. The next morning, I forced myself to get up and go to work. I thought maybe if I kept myself busy, I'd forget the pain for a few hours. But as soon as I walked into the office, I felt everyone's eyes on me. At first, I thought it was just in my head. But then my coworker Brian walked over and put a hand on my shoulder with this awkward pity in his eyes. "Hey man, I heard about Amanda," he whispered. I didn't even ask how he knew. I just nodded and sat at my desk. But throughout the day, I kept hearing whispers. People looking at me, talking behind their computer screens, pretending to type while their eyes darted towards me. It was like everyone knew my shame, and I couldn't hide from it. During lunch break, I sat alone in the car, staring at the steering wheel with tears rolling down my cheeks. I felt so small. So worthless. Later that evening, I called my friend Jake. He was my best friend since high school. We used to do everything together, from skipping classes to camping trips. When he answered, I felt a small relief. At least he would be on my side. I told him everything: how Amanda admitted she cheated, how she left, and how broken I felt. But what he said next made my blood run cold. "Bro, honestly, maybe she was right. You've been slacking lately. You don't even hit the gym anymore. You're always tired. Maybe she just needed something more." I went silent. My hand trembled as I held the phone to my ear. Did my own best friend just say that to me? Did he just agree with her? I wanted to scream at him, to tell him how cruel that was, but no words came out. All I could manage was a shaky, "okay," before hanging up. That night, I realized I didn't just lose my wife. I lost my friends too. The people I trusted most in this world saw me as weak, as a failure, as a man who wasn't enough. And as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, something dark began to grow inside me. A thought that whispered again and again, if they all think I'm worthless, maybe it's time to show them who I really am. Because deep down, I knew there was more to Amanda's betrayal than she ever let me see. And I was going to find out every hidden truth she tried to bury. The next few days felt like I was walking through thick fog, unable to see where my life was heading. Every morning, I forced myself out of bed, washed my face, and tried to act normal at work. But inside, I was just empty. I couldn't focus on my projects, and my boss started noticing. One afternoon, he called me into his office. He looked at me with concern and asked, "Is everything okay at home?" I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. What was I supposed to say? That my wife left me because I wasn't a real man, and my friends agreed with her? After work that day, I sat in my car for an hour just staring out at the street. Cars passed by, people walked home with groceries, kids laughed on bicycles, but all of it felt like it was happening in a world I no longer belonged to. When I finally drove home, I noticed something strange. A car was parked outside my house, a black SUV with tinted windows. I didn't recognize it. I waited for a moment to see if someone would come out, but no one did. My chest tightened with unease. I parked a little further down the road and walked towards my house, trying not to look directly at the SUV. As I reached my front door, I felt eyes on me, but when I turned back, the SUV drove off slowly into the dark street. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that SUV. Who was watching me? Was it Amanda's new boyfriend? Was it her, checking if I was moving on? Or was it something else? My mind kept spinning with questions, and each one tightened the fear in my chest. I thought about calling Amanda, but what would I even say? She made it clear she didn't want to hear from me again. A few days later, I decided to visit my brother, Liam. He lived about an hour away in a small rented flat. He wasn't close to Amanda, so I thought maybe he'd give me the comfort I needed. When I got there, he welcomed me with his usual wide grin, but when he saw my face, his smile faded. We sat on his torn brown sofa, and I finally let out everything. He listened quietly, nodding, not judging me like the others did. But then he said something that caught me off guard. "You know, I saw Amanda 2 weeks ago. She was at the mall with some guy. They were holding hands. I thought it was you at first, but he was taller, built like those guys in fitness ads." I didn't think much of it, but are you sure this just started recently? Hearing that made my stomach twist. 2 weeks ago, she was already out with him, acting like they were a couple. My heart sank deeper into that cold place it had been stuck in since she left. I realized then that her betrayal wasn't just about cheating. She had been planning this life with him long before she confessed to me. My brother noticed the anger building in my eyes and he said, "Look, man, you need to find out who this guy is. You can't just let this happen." That night, as I drove back home, I decided I wouldn't stay in the dark anymore. I was done feeling like a victim. I needed answers. I needed to know who he was, why Amanda chose him, and what else she had been hiding from me. Because something about this didn't feel right. And I had a feeling that the deeper I dug, the darker the truth would become. The next morning, I woke up with a tightness in my chest that wouldn't go away. My brother's words replayed in my mind over and over. Amanda had already been with him before she told me the truth. The thought burned like acid inside me. As I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the floor, I realized I couldn't live another day not knowing who this man was. I needed to see him with my own eyes. I needed to know what kind of person could destroy someone's family without guilt. After work, I drove to Amanda's office building. I parked across the street, my hands sweating on the steering wheel. Part of me felt pathetic, sitting there like some desperate stalker, but the pain in my chest was stronger than my shame. Hours passed. I watched people come and go under the golden streetlights until finally I saw her. Amanda walked out, laughing, her hair tied up neatly, her makeup perfect like always. But she wasn't alone. Walking beside her was a tall man in a black button-down shirt with rolled-up sleeves. His hair was styled perfectly, his jawline sharp, his arms muscular like he spent every day at the gym. He had that confident walk that made people look twice. Amanda was smiling at him the way she used to smile at me when we first started dating. The sight made my stomach twist painfully. He put his hand on her lower back as they walked towards his SUV, the same black SUV I saw parked outside my house days ago. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst through my ribs. So it was him watching me. Why? What did he want? I slouched down in my seat, hiding behind the dashboard. They stood by his car for a few minutes, talking closely, their faces only inches apart. Then he leaned down and kissed her. My hands clenched so tight around the steering wheel I thought it would snap. Seeing her kiss him so comfortably, so confidently, broke whatever was left of me in that moment. They drove off together, and without thinking, I started my car and followed them. The streets were dark, with only a few cars passing by. My headlights felt too bright, and I kept a distance so they wouldn't notice me. Finally, they stopped outside an apartment complex I didn't recognize. I parked down the road and watched them walk inside, holding hands like a happy couple with no secrets. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the front door of the building, my mind spinning with questions. Who was he really? Did Amanda plan this affair with him from the start? Was she in danger, or was I the only fool in this story? Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a text from an unknown number. My chest tightened as I read it. It said, "Stop following us or things will get ugly for you." My whole body froze. I looked around, but the street was empty. My breathing became shallow as fear spread through my veins. How did he know I was there? Was he watching me right now? I wanted to drive away, but my hands wouldn't move. That message made everything real. This wasn't just about love or betrayal anymore. It was something darker, something deeper, and I realized I might have just walked into something I wasn't ready for. And as I sat there in the darkness with my phone trembling in my hand, I knew that whatever truth waited ahead, it was going to destroy everything I thought I knew about my wife and myself. I sat there gripping my phone so tight my knuckles turned white. That text kept flashing in my mind like a warning siren. "Stop following us or things will get ugly for you." My first thought was to call the police, but what would I tell them? That my wife's new boyfriend was threatening me for sitting in my own car on a public street? They'd probably just tell me to go home and mind my own business. But my gut told me this wasn't just a threat to scare me. Something deeper was happening here. As I sat frozen, trying to calm my shaking hands, another car pulled into the apartment parking lot. It was an old silver Honda with one broken headlight. At first, I didn't pay attention, but when the driver stepped out, my breath caught in my throat. It was Amanda. My heart stopped for a second. I blinked, confused, staring at her as she locked her car and walked into the building with her purse clutched tightly against her chest. But I just saw her go in with that man an hour ago. Who was the woman I saw with him earlier? I felt my head spin, Was my mind playing tricks on me from exhaustion? But as she disappeared into the building, I realized the truth hit me like ice water down my spine. The woman I saw earlier wasn't Amanda. She looked just like her from behind, same hair, same height, same build. But now, seeing Amanda in person, I noticed she was wearing completely different clothes. My chest tightened with dread as I realized what this meant. Who was that woman he was with earlier? Why was she pretending to be my wife? My phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. Go home before you regret this. Fear and confusion tangled together in my chest. I started the car and drove away quickly, my eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds to make sure no one was following me. My mind raced with possibilities. Was this man living a double life with two women who looked the same? Or was Amanda involved in something even darker that I didn't know about? When I reached home, my heart was still pounding. I poured myself a glass of water, but my hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped it. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the cracks on the wall, thinking about every little moment with Amanda. All those late nights at work she never explained. The unexplained credit card bills. The sudden weekends away with friends I never met. All those times she came home quiet, distracted, refusing to tell me where she'd been. Suddenly, I remembered something that made my stomach churn. A few months ago, Amanda had started getting random packages delivered to the house, always insisting she'd open them privately in the bedroom. I never thought much of it, assuming it was clothes or makeup. But what if it wasn't? What if she was hiding something far worse? I knew then that I couldn't let this go. I needed to know who that other woman was. Why was she pretending to be Amanda? And who exactly was this man who thought he could threaten me into silence? Because whatever game they were playing, I was now caught in the middle of it. And as I sat there with my mind spiraling deeper into fear and rage, I realized that everything I thought I knew about my wife and my marriage was about to shatter into something far more dangerous than betrayal alone. The next morning, I woke up with a single goal in mind. I couldn't live with these questions haunting me anymore. I needed answers, no matter how painful they were. I called in sick at work and drove straight to the apartment complex. I parked where I had the night before and waited, feeling my heart pound so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Hours passed before I finally saw him. The man. He came out wearing gym clothes, holding a protein shake, looking like he had no worries in the world. I forced myself to stay calm and followed him to a small gym a few blocks away. I waited in my car until he went inside, then I stepped out and walked over to his SUV parked in the corner of the lot. My hands trembled as I peeked through the window. That's when I saw her purse sitting on the passenger seat. Amanda's purse. My chest tightened. I knew every scratch and mark on that old leather bag. Why was it in his car now? I grabbed my phone and called Amanda. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. When she answered, her voice sounded tired and annoyed. "What do you want?" she snapped. "Where are you right now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "At home, sleeping." "Why?" she said flatly. I felt my blood turn cold. She was lying. I could hear traffic in the background and muffled announcements like she was in a public place. I didn't say anything. I just hung up and felt something break inside me. I waited until he left the gym, and when he walked back to his car, I stepped out and called out his name. He turned around slowly, his eyes narrowing as he saw me. "I know everything," I said, trying to sound stronger than I felt. He smirked and shook his head like I was some pathetic child. "No, you don't," he said calmly. "You really don't?" I clenched my fists, ready to scream at him, but then he pulled out his phone and showed me something that made my knees go weak. It was a video of Amanda, sitting in what looked like his apartment, counting stacks of cash on the table. She was smiling, talking about how easy it was to get rid of me. My vision blurred as he tucked his phone away and leaned in close. "Your wife and I have been running this scam for months," he whispered. "She files for divorce, claims your assets, and I get my cut. But thanks to your little stalking, she decided to keep it all for herself. And now, You're just in the way. He turned and got in his car, driving off without another word, leaving me standing there in the parking lot, feeling my world crumble all over again. The betrayal wasn't just an affair. It was a setup. And the final twist cut deeper than anything else. Amanda never wanted a real man. She just wanted everything I had, and she made sure I lost it all. I stood there in that empty parking lot long after he left, feeling like my legs could no longer hold my weight. My mind was numb, but slowly, the reality of it all sank in. Amanda never really loved me. Everything we built together, every smile she gave me, every kiss goodnight, it was all part of her plan to take everything and leave me with nothing. The man wasn't just her lover, he was her partner in scamming people like me. I kept replaying the video he showed me in my mind, her laughing as she counted the money, saying how easy it was to ruin me. My chest felt so heavy I could barely breathe. When I finally drove home, the silence inside felt louder than ever. I sat on the couch, staring at the dark TV screen, thinking about the years I wasted loving her. I thought about the times she cried in my arms, telling me she was tired from work. I thought about how she looked at me on our wedding day, promising to stay with me forever. Every single memory felt tainted now, like someone had splashed black ink all over my life. For hours I didn't move. I just sat there, feeling every inch of my pain, letting it settle deep in my bones. But as the night turned into dawn, a quiet strength began to grow inside me. I realized Amanda and that man thought they had won. They thought they broke me completely, that I would just fade away and leave them to enjoy what they stole. But they were wrong. Because I wasn't the same man I was when this started. Their betrayal changed me. It woke up a part of me that had been sleeping for years, the part that refused to stay silent. The next day, I gathered every document, every bank statement, every proof of transfer I could find. I spent hours organizing them in files. Then I went to see a lawyer recommended by my brother. When I showed him everything and told him the story, he sat back in his chair, shaking his head in disbelief. "They messed with the wrong person," he said quietly. He promised to help me fight back. He said with this evidence, we could block her divorce claims, freeze the assets, and press charges for fraud. It would be a long battle, but I felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. That evening, as I left the lawyer's office and stepped into the fading sunlight, I took a deep breath of the warm summer air. For the first time, I felt light. Yes, Amanda betrayed me. Yes, she humiliated me in front of my friends. But in the end, she freed me from a lie I didn't even know I was living. She showed me her true face, and now I could build my life again without her shadows hanging over me. I drove home that night with my windows down, feeling the wind on my face, thinking about everything I had lost but also everything I still had, my dignity, my courage, and the quiet strength that comes from being betrayed and still choosing to stand tall. I knew the road ahead would be hard. But as I pulled into my driveway and looked at the dark house that used to feel like a home, I whispered to myself, "This is not the end. This is just where my real story begins."